You're listening to the Murphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Murphology Podcast, aka Murph here to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? Well, on the podcast this week is Jason from Gravel Worlds. Gravel Worlds, located in Lincoln, Nebraska, started back in 2010 and has grown tremendously over the years. And throughout that growth, they have always kept the true grassroots spirit alive, which basically means when you're out on the course, it's just you and your bike and no outside support. So whether you're going for victory or you like to pedal at a party pace, Gravel Worlds has something for everyone. They are running a promotion to get 1,000 women to register, and thanks to HMS Logistics, Gravel Worlds, and an anonymous female donor, $15 per woman of the 1,000 women of Gravel Worlds will be donated to the Nebraska GRIT, which is Girls Riding Together program. Registration opens November 6th, 2021. So here is my interview with Jason. All right, well, on the show today, we have Jason from Gravel Worlds. Hey, Jason.
How's it going?
Really good. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because I have started dabbling in the world of gravel, and I saw an amazing post on social media that was specific to women in gravel. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to reach out to this guy, and here you are.
Here I am. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I'm glad the word got out, and more women are seeing what we're trying to do with Gravel Worlds, and
yeah,
you're going to help spread that word even more. So thanks for reaching out.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people anybody who does any sort of gravel and in the Midwest has probably heard of Gravel Worlds, but I wrote down that it's a grassroots gravel event for all athletic abilities. And I can guarantee you, I've seen like influencers that I follow on social media that have been to Gravel Worlds, and then also people like me who, I'm not going to win. I just am going out there to have some fun. So I can attest that it's truly all abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's good that you've seen that. And that's something we really strive for, especially as our event has gotten bigger. To really keep that, we call it gravel family. We say it all the time, to keep that gravel family alive, where it's super common for our event to once the pros come in and the winners come in, like they're hanging out and cheering people on as well, and hanging out all night. And we're all there to celebrate your from pro to Joe is what we say. So
awesome.
Whether you're coming in first or last, we're going to be there to celebrate you. And I said it at the beginning of this year's race was, there's only two people that win, one male, one female, but there's 2,000 other of you. So who's really more important in the end? So it takes all of us to come together as a community, and I'm glad it's coming across that we truly do celebrate all people.
Yeah. Well, with that said, let's tell the listeners a little bit about what Gravel Worlds is. Do you want to kind of get into it? Maybe like, when is it? What is it? Where is it? All the good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So we're in Lincoln, Nebraska. So right in the middle of the country. And our event for 2022 is going to be August 19th and 20th. Of 2022. So we have new for next year. We're going to have a run as well. So I guess some people like running. I don't understand that, but we're going to add it. So we're going to have a 50K ultra marathon on gravel on Friday the 19th, and then on also Friday night is when our 300-mile race. So the Long Voyage 300 starts on Friday night at 5. They ride all through the night, and they have to finish by 11 p.m. on Saturday. And then our main events start on Saturday, August 20th. So we have our 150. That's our main event. Starts early in the morning. And then we have our 75-mile and our 50K. So we really have an option for everyone now, no matter what the ability is. That 50K is awesome for people that are just getting into gravel. Bike racing can be incredibly intimidating. So having that our 50K event, it's non-competitive. There's no winner to that 50K. So it's just come, have a good time. If you want to go at party pace and stop at the bar in the small town on your way, you can do that. I guess you can do that on any of our courses if you want to. But so whether you're doing a easy party pace or you're going for the victory on a 300-mile race, we have the options for you. So yeah, those are kind of our options. You mentioned grassroots style. A lot of people have different meanings of what that is. To us, that the biggest thing for that is it means it's self-supported. So that's kind of what gravel was when we first started. It wasn't. We love that gravel's getting bigger, but really all gravel racing was a bunch of friends getting together, and you met at the start line, you put a crazy course together, and you met at the end for beers to have a good time and tell each other your stories of your crazy day. So that's what we describe grassroots as. So it is self-supported. So your navigation is self-supported. The courses aren't mapped or marked along the way. So the 150-mile journey, you need to be responsible whether you're using cue cards or you're uploading it to your Garmin. And also self-supported means there's no team vehicles. You can't have family members at the checkpoint and no drop bags out on course, things like that. So if there's something specific that you need, you have to bring it with you at the start. So we do provide water. We have several great nutrition sponsors that will have nutrition options at our checkpoints. And also one thing that's kind of unique with our event is we still go through those small towns, and we have at one of our small towns, we have a Boy Scout troop that they, have snacks and stuff.
Nice.
You bring cash, and they literally pay for their summer trip every year because of Gravel Worlds. And then another one of the small towns we go through, the baseball and softball teams, the kids teams are there, and they help raise money to build a new ball field. So Gravel Worlds has literally built a ball field in one of the small towns that we go through because of our riders. So. So we do have options, and then in those small towns too, we also have like gas stations and things you can stop at. So it's not like if you're doing 150 miles, you have to bring 150 miles worth of water when it's almost 100 degrees. That's not what we're saying. We also have what we call pirate angels out on course that will set up where, they might have boxes of Twinkies or something that they're going to give out. Maybe a beer or two, but those are not sponsored by us. But if you want to grab a beer by the Pirate Angels, you totally can do that too. So, I
thought it was funny. I read on your website that when you described what self-supported meant, and on the website it says so if your family's going to come out and give you support, they have to be willing to support every single rider out there. And so I was like envisioning someone's mom making scotcheroos or something and having 3,000 of them ready for every athlete.
You'd be surprised how many people do that. Like one of our photographers that sets up out on course, he has those oatmeal pies. I think that's what he's famous for. So like he's out there taking pictures, and then his kids are behind him that they're handing out oatmeal pies after they get a picture taken of them. So yeah, if we welcome people to go out there and cheer people on. We also encourage people to go out, and if they want to cheer on their family members, one thing that's kind of unique about our event is we have one central location for our checkpoint for all of our riders. So every single race goes through the same location, and that's just packed with volunteers. So we really encourage people, if you want to go out and cheer on your husband or your wife or friends, go volunteer at that checkpoint. We have music out there going. It's a blast being out there as a volunteer or a rider. So if you want to really cheer on, and then you get to help all 3,000 riders while you're out there. So it's a really fun time to get out there and volunteer. And then with every volunteer, we also donate money to our Lincoln Park. So you're helping in lots of different ways if you do that. So
yeah, and I live in Iowa, so I'm going to assume that the gravel roads are really similar, where you're going to have a lot of farms and open fields and just a lot of silence, which is
Mhm.
part of the, what people really enjoy about gravel is that they're not as worried about traffic or just things that are happening on busy roads. But then to like come up over a hill and to see a volunteer station or a checkpoint or just somebody cheering you on, there's just like nothing better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's very similar. I grew up in Iowa, actually, on the western side of the state.
Oh,
So,
okay.
uh, but it's very similar. So, like Iowa, our gravel's pretty much on a grid program where it's, a 1 mile grid. You go 1 mile north, 1 mile west, 1
Mm-hmm.
mile south. You can make a perfect square. So very similar to like that. And yeah, it's very similar. Just quiet. Our main event. Our 150 actually starts in the dark to try to
Oh.
kind of avoid the August heat as much as we can. So we
Mm-hmm.
start at 6 a.m. So there's about 45 minutes, and a lot of times we most years we have a beautiful sunrise that you get to experience with 3,000 of your closest friends. So that's something that's pretty cool as well.
Nice.
That you just get a ride in the silence.
Yeah. And then the other thing about, for me at least, Midwest gravel is how tasty everything at a gas station is when you're in the middle of a ride. Like, like today, you would not see me going in and like, grabbing some sort of fried something out of a gas station. But man, when you've been on gravel all day, you like look at that chocolate milk or see something, a
Oh
donut,
yeah.
a stale donut from 2 days ago. You're like, that is the best donut ever.
Oh yeah, there's something about a Casey's pizza, slice of Casey's
Yes.
pizza that hits really good at mile 60 when you have 40, 50 to go. So
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about like what gravel is? And what I mean by that is, sometimes gravel can mean dirt, sometimes it's, chunky, sometimes like gravel's different in every
yeah,
state. So tell us about gravel in gravel worlds.
yeah. So our gravel is most of our gravel roads are going to be limestone based gravel. So and generally it's actually pretty hard packed. So if it's
Mm.
dry, it rolls. If you're riding, in the car lanes, it's almost like concrete. It'll roll really fast where you
Hmm.
can get good speed up and downhill. Newer roads, if it's like a newer road that they just replaced, it can get pretty thick, marble or golf ball size limestone.
Hmm.
That's probably the places where you're most likely to get a flat. I've ridden thousands of miles around here, and I mean the only thing I really get flats from is like trash, hitting a piece of metal or something.
Sure,
But
yeah.
the other thing that, since we're kind of right on the edge of where the sand hills start in Nebraska, we do have some roads that are really sandy based, almost like playground pea gravel,
Mm.
where it can get pretty thick, like 3 or 4 inches deep in places. So I mean, it's almost like a cyclocross sand pit in some areas. So you get a good variety. And then we also have dirt roads, like we call them MMRs. I think in Iowa they're B roads.
Yep.
MMR is minimum maintenance road, is what we call them.
Hmm.
So our MMRs, if they're wet, are incredibly sticky, like impossible to ride. You might get 2 rotations of the tire before it is completely unrideable. But if it's dry, it's super packed. It's really fast rolling. So and also if it once it stops raining, it dries out really fast here. So
Hmm.
that's another thing too. So I mean, this year it rained the night of Gravel Worlds, going into Gravel Worlds, and I mean our dirt roads were perfectly fine. It had been dry for the 2-3 weeks before, so it even though we got a lot of rain that night, it's a different story for the 300 milers who were riding in that
Yeah.
rain. They were riding in the storm throughout the night, which was crazy that how well they did, considering there was quite a bit of hike a bike area for them. But
Hmm.
everybody else, it was pretty solid, where they had a good time the next day because it dries out really fast once it
Hmm.
stops raining.
A quick interruption to tell you this week's podcast is sponsored by Lizard Lips Lip Balm. These great lip balms contain natural ingredients, come in a variety of flavors, and you can choose certified organic or balms with sun protection. Check it out at lizardlips.net. Now back to the show. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the push you are doing right now to get 1,000 women to participate in
Yeah,
Gravel Worlds?
absolutely. Yeah, so we are doing our 1,000 Women of Gravel Worlds initiative. So there's kind of several parts to that. So one thing we've really heard from women is they felt like those mass registrations is when they kind of get left behind, where there's just naturally in our industry right now, there's more men that are there to sign up, so it sells out really quick, and not as many women get in. So we are going to be opening up 1,000 women positions the week before general registration opens, so that women have first come, first serve, that they can get in, and we're going to try to get those 1,000 women positions filled up right away on November 6th at 8 a.m. Central. So that's one aspect. So we want to make sure that if women want to come, they have an opportunity to come. And whether that's from our 50K all the way up to the 300 or our double, even if they're doing the run and the bike. So we have several people that are going to be doing the double
both
as well. Yeah, so
Whoa.
They're going to basically do a 2-day ultra biathlon.
Wow.
Is what it would. Yeah, so extra crazy, which is extra awesome in our book. So
if women are listening to this podcast before November 6th, they need to put it on their calendar that they can go online November 6th and get registered.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so November 6th, 8 a.m. Central is when our 1,000 women's positions will open. We'll also, all the positions for the Long Voyage 300 will open that day. We want to make sure that people that want to do the longer one will be in before our max capacity hits. The run and the double also open on that November 6th. All of our other races, so the 150, 75, and 50K, and all the remaining positions of, if we sell out those 1,000 positions, will open on November 13th, the following week.
Okay, got it. Well, while we're on the topic of gravel and Gravel Worlds, do you want to give us a little bit of history? Like, how long has it existed, and how Pirate Cycling League is involved?
Yeah. Okay. So we should probably start with Pirate Cycling League first, because that was around first. So Pirate Cycling League is a team or club, however you want to describe it. We kind of describe ourselves as the team for the teamless, or the club for the clubless. There's no entry fees. There's no official meetings. There's no any hoops to jump through. You don't even have to buy the kit, but if you buy the kit, you're considered a pirate. Anybody can be a pirate. Our only rule, our number one rule, is don't be lame. So if you live by that, it's you're good to be a pirate in our book. So ultimately, we just want to be a bunch of good people that are out riding and encouraging bikes. We just had one of our pirate friends was up in Montana, and they were on a bike ride, and they saw a guy wearing a Pirate Cycling League hat, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going, pirate?" Like, so it's a national or global community that it's accepting of all people. So yeah, we understand there's a lot of people that on the club side of things, it can be intimidating and unwelcoming, where we kind of wanted to break that stigma. So if you want to fly the pirate flag, you can totally do that. That was founded in 2008 was when we founded Pirate Cycling League. And then Gravel Worlds was kind of separate at the beginning, kind of together, and they've really morphed together where they're basically the same. We're all in it together. So Gravel Worlds started in 2010. It was kind of at the time when cyclocross worlds and mountain bike worlds and road worlds were all like really getting big, and our founder Corey Godfrey was like, well, let's make a Gravel Worlds, kind of almost like in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. Was like, well, we're going to be the Gravel Worlds, and we're going to keep what gravel really is. We're going to keep the spirit of gravel alive, and it's going to stay right here in the Midwest where gravel was formed. So that's kind of how we got our name. That's how we started. Our first year was, just 100 people, just 100 friends, mostly right here in Nebraska and Kansas, and it's grown every year ever since. So it's been an awesome adventure. We have such a great cycling community here in Lincoln that have been so supportive of our event that to say it wouldn't be possible without them is an understatement. So it's been a fun adventure. So I think this is our 13th year. This is going to be our 13th year, 12th event since we didn't have one. We had a virtual in 2020,
Right.
but it'll be our 13th year, and we're super excited to keep this train rolling, this gravel train going.
Yeah, and I think it's great with that many years under your belt that you still have that feeling of grassroots, like you're still maintaining your back to your core.
Yeah, and it's an active decision that we try to make in every decision that we make. So
Mhm.
as our events gotten bigger, there's more bells and whistles. There's more things that make the event bigger and more exciting. But at the core, we want to keep that community at its focus. So we really hope that comes through.
Mhm.
This last year was our biggest one ever. We feel that we kind of proved to ourselves that we can grow our event and still keep that spirit of gravel alive and bring more people in and be a voice at the gravel table, and amongst the big races where we can say, we're fighting for the little guy just as much as the pros. So
Yeah, God, that's awesome.
we're yeah.
That's awesome. And if you think back over the last, 12/13 years, any good stories that you're like, oh man, every time I think of Gravel World, this story comes in my head? A quick interruption to give a shout out to Primal Wear. Cycling is their passion and apparel is their craft. So if you're in the market for a new jersey, bibs, mask, or any cycling apparel, go to primalwear.com and use code PRIMALMURPH to get 20% off your purchase. Yes, 20% off. Now back to the show.
Oh man.
There's probably a lot of them.
I mean, there's a lot. There's so many. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, one of the really cool ones, and we actually just posted it. They put a highlight video today out on our YouTube and Facebook page. Was one of our athletes called Josh. His name's Josh. He rides for a nonprofit called Adventure for All, and it's a nonprofit that helps athletes with physical and mental disabilities get into sport. So their big thing is, young kids, as they go through high school, they have a lot of support, but then once they graduate from high school, there's not a lot of support for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times people find a lot of confidence through sport. So they, in addition to teaching them, life skills, they're helping them find confidence through sports. And we got connected with them last year, and we brought Josh, and he was the first athlete with severe autism that came, and he finished our 50K race. And it was just, it's just, I watched that. I've probably watched that video like 6 times, and I still cry every single time, because it's just to see what he personally accomplished, and to call him a friend and call his family friends now. And through him doing that, there were a couple of his friends back in Florida that were inspired to learn to ride a bike. They were never able to find the confidence to ride a bike. And so he taught them how to ride a bike and gave them confidence to do that. And they're going to be coming to Gravel Worlds 2022.
Oh, man,
so,
that's great.
So yeah, it's stories like that. There's been so many times, like at the finish line, I've had this last year, I had a woman came up and gave me a hug, and she was crying when she finished. And I was like, is everything okay? Are you okay? And she's like, yeah, Gravel World's changed my life. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, I signed up for your race as a motivator to lose weight, and I lost over 100 pounds.
Whoa.
Because of Gravel Worlds. And so she's like, she told me she wasn't on heart medication anymore. She didn't have high blood pressure. Like she said, like Gravel Worlds helped change her life. And it's stories like that are ultimately what I remember. It's awesome, the pros winning, but it's stories like that of people whose lives have been changed because of something we're trying to do. It's very humbling and definitely motivating to keep this thing going forward.
God, that's great. And, my experience, I've only been in a couple of actual, organized, I guess you'd call them races. For me, they were rides. But like, as far as obstacles when I'm on the course, my biggest fear is getting lost. And like you said, gravel's kind of a grid. So if I take a wrong turn or, miss something, before you know it, I could be, 30 miles the opposite way. So,
Yeah.
but, for me, it's like getting lost and, being scared of wherever I am. But what are some common obstacles that athletes face when they're out there?
Yeah, I mean, the navigation is one. The good thing with as an event gets larger, there's more people around you that can
Yeah.
kind of you can follow if something gets off, which is nice for our event. It can be naturally more intimidating with more people riding around you, though. But overall, everybody's really supportive. I would say the most common obstacle, outside of your own internal things that you're trying to overcome would be the heat
Mm.
at Gravel World. So, I mean, you're very familiar with Midwest August. That can be incredibly hot and
Mm-hmm.
humid.
Mm-hmm.
So heat is often. This last year was perfect though. So we can't have perfect years. I think it was like a high of like 83,
Oh, wow.
which is amazing with no wind, which also doesn't happen. So I'd say the wind and the heat are one.
Mm-hmm.
If it's wet, we can have some mud. We don't have a lot of mud roads, so there wouldn't be a ton of hike a bike type areas, but there could be a few miles of that where you would have to carry your bike if it was really wet. Um, as far as like mechanicals and flats, we don't really have a lot of things that would cause that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've ridden thousands of miles around here and never gotten a flat because of the gravel itself. I've hit some metal or hit a railroad crossing wrong or something like that caused a flat. But I mean, it's maybe once a year, if
Mm-hmm.
that I get a flat. Knock on wood. But so it's not like other. I know like Unbound down in Kansas, like flats are probably the number one thing that people have to overcome.
Mm.
But we really don't have too many flat issues, which is good for us. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you look at gravel riding, I think we mentioned this at the beginning, but I think it's gained popularity because less traffic, less hubbub as far as stuff happening around you. But what do you think gravel riding, like, how has it gained popularity over the years?
I think I mean, here in the Midwest, at least for sure, I think the community aspect is massive.
Mm.
So, and just the support of all kinds of riders, no matter if you're first or last. I know a lot of other genres can be really intimidating and unwelcoming. And in my own progression of cycling, it started out on road, and I rode road for a couple years and just never felt connected or at home. And I'm not saying that that's always the case, but for me, I went to my first gravel race, and I had a fat bike on my first gravel race because I bought a fat bike to ride in the winters around here. So I did a gravel race on that fat bike, and I'm literally friends with people that I met at that first gravel
Oh,
race,
cool. Yeah.
7 years ago. So to me, it's the community around it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that gravel family, where just everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter what your abilities are, what color you are, what gender you are. Like you're accepted, and we're there to genuinely cheer you on and help you out. So
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, it's that to me that's what it is.
Yeah, I love that too. So how about a little bit about you? Like, obviously, I'm assuming that you live near where
Yep.
Gravel Worlds takes place, but how about where you live, what you ride, and you kind of gave us a few hints about your cycling background.
Yeah, I live here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've worked with Gravel Worlds, been a part of the team since early 2019, and really been with us in our big growth here to help expand our race. So yeah, I work with Gravel Worlds full time. That's my full time job. I ride almost predominantly gravel, so I ride any chance I can get, as long as it's not completely soaked and caked with mud. I'll go out and ride gravel. I ride a Niner steel frame
Mm.
with a Lao fork. That's what I ride now. So it's a really squishy, nice, comfortable combo on there. And yeah, my cycling background, I started in kind of like everybody. I rode uh, when I was a kid, loved riding bikes. When I went to college, one of my friends had an extra bike invited me on a bike ride. And I think our first ride, we did 20 miles or something, and I thought I was going to die. And then, that by the end of that year, we were doing, 40-mile rides, 45-mile rides. And I was just using his borrowed bike. So I think my first road bike I bought was off bikesdirect.com, that really cheap bike online place. It was a really cheap bike. And I put a few thousand miles on that bike before getting a nice road bike, and then naturally progressed into gravel.
Yeah.
And I've been riding almost strictly gravel for the last 5-6 years, probably.
Wow. That's awesome. Do you still have the fat bike that you mentioned earlier?
I do still have the fat bike. It's my winter go-to. So it is, I'll still ride it on gravel, from here and there, but it's also good to take on like the trails and stuff.
Right.
And I love riding it in the winter when we get some snow, taking it to some of the bike parks here in Lincoln. So
oh yeah,
I love riding it around in the winter.
Yes, I love mine too. And people who don't live in the Midwest, sometimes people will think of fat bikes for riding on sand or on beaches. And, they're blown away when I'm like, I can't wait till it starts snowing because the fat bike comes out and I can bounce over about anything.
Yeah, it's awesome. We had a little trouble when we got like the 30-inch snowstorm last winter. That was a little difficult to get around, but we tried to make it work. So.
Well, I think we both know the future of gravel popularity based on the numbers that you spoke of, as far as how many people come to gravel worlds. But do you feel like the future of gravel is going to continue to be popular?
Oh yeah, I think gravel is a uniquely American sport. I know it's expanding globally, but especially here in the Midwest, it's what we have. So I don't think it's going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
15 years ago when our friends were riding on gravel roads, it wasn't called gravel biking. It was just they were out biking because that's the roads that we have. So I don't foresee it going anywhere, especially here in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's going to be, it's exciting to see other race genres that are coming up in gravel. There's more elite races and there's more laid back races. And it's good to have a good variety of gravel. And so I don't foresee it going anywhere, especially with the global recognition that it's really starting to get, which is exciting to have that support in the community. So
yeah, and it's funny to think, I don't know about you, but growing up in Iowa, when I was 10 years old, that's like all I did was ride gravel, and
mm-hmm.
gravel bikes didn't exist. So it's just funny to think back that, I learned some of those skills, then completely, forgot about all of them. And, I had my road bike in high school and, yada, yada, yada. And then you come back to it and you're like, oh, okay. Now I remember why I loved doing this as a kid.
Yep. Yeah. My first memories of riding a bike were with my grandpa on gravel roads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had a flat bar specialized rock hopper mountain bike was the bike that I had. So just a classic bike now that is like a classic in the mountain bike industry. So that was like my first bike that I rode on gravel. So I think he still has that like hanging up in his attic. So maybe I hope to get my hands on that and rebuild it up and maybe put some new bearings in it, and that'll be my vintage gravel bike.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Or get it all cleaned up and hang it on the wall as a museum art piece.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, if people want to, we've talked about gravel worlds now for probably half an hour. If they want to know more, well, obviously they need to get it on their calendar, November 6th and November 13th of 2021. But where can they go to find out more information and get, stoked by looking at photographs from years past?
Yeah. Yeah, so gravel-worlds.com is our website. So gravel-worlds.com. Go there. We have a history page of every single year, so you can find highlight videos and pictures of all the previous years. I think we also have all of our courses listed on there too. So if you're there's a lot of people that just come as they're driving across the country. They're seeing places to stop and ride some gravel. So we have all of our old courses on there. If they want to go drive those. And we're really active on Facebook and Instagram. We have a TikTok now too, if you want to follow us on TikTok. So just some fun videos of us out riding. So, or if you have any questions, just send us a message on Instagram and Facebook. We'll be happy to answer them on there.
Awesome. So gravel-worlds.com is the website. Awesome. Yep. Well, thank you so much, Jason. And we should point out, too, on the website is all of your sponsors, which is nice to see.
Absolutely.
Some of the, the great companies that are involved in supporting gravel as well.
Absolutely. And I think one thing we forgot to say with those 1,000 Women of Gravel, and you mentioned our sponsor, we really need to throw out HMH Logistics. They are, with those 1,000 women, Gravel Worlds will be donating $5 per rider, and HMH Logistics will be donating $5 per rider. So up to $10,000 will be donated to our local NICA chapter, specifically their GRIT program, Girls Riding Together. So with those 1,000 women, not only are we opening the door for women to get into Gravel Worlds, we're helping foster the next generation of female cyclists. So that HMH Logistics has been huge of making that 1,000 Women of Gravel Worlds possible. So thank you specifically to them with this initiative. So
excellent. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I am looking forward to experiencing Gravel Worlds next year.
Absolutely. Can't wait to have you.
Well, listeners, that's it for this week. Thanks, Jason, for coming on to talk about Gravel Worlds, where their mission is to create a fun, kick-ass gravel event for all levels of athletes to enjoy. You're not going to catch me running the 50K on gravel, but you will see me next August to do some riding on gravel. Remember, you can register starting November 6th. Find out more info on their website, which is gravel-worlds.com. Email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting. Support my podcast at patreon.com/murphology. Visit my Instagram page for daily entertainment and check out my website for all kinds of bicycle stuff. And a quick shout out to Simmons Electric for sponsoring this episode. I'll leave you with this quote from the Unwritten Book of Murphology. This quote comes from Francis E. Willard. "That which made me succeed with the bicycle has precisely what had gained me a measure of success in life. It was the hardihood of spirit that led me to begin, the persistence of will that held me to my task, and the patience that was willing to begin again when the last stroke had failed. She who succeeds in gaining the mastery of the bicycle will gain the mastery of life." Think about it.